On a usual day, the average person must walk past 100 to 1,000 people each day. And yet one thing that we rarely talk about is the fact that each of these people has thousands of memories and stories that they could share with the world, but we always just nod at them and acknowledge their existence for a brief moment, and then we forget about it entirely. What if instead of doing this, we took a moment and gave them an opportunity to share something about themselves, share something about their lives that we could all learn from and appreciate? So today I decided I wasn't just going to nod at everybody I passed. I was going to talk to them. I was going to ask them what their favorite memory was, to give them an opportunity to share part of their lives with me and with you. I hope you enjoy.
One of my formative memories was a story my father told me from his life. In the year 1933, he and his family had basically lost their house. That happened a lot back during the Great Depression. And he was in first grade at the time and 8 years old. And the first grade teacher at Christmas time, seeing that most of the children in the classroom were poverty-stricken and wouldn't get any Christmas presents. Heck, many of them didn't have shoes to wear per se. Newspapers stuffed in the bottoms and that kind of stuff. Took all the money she had and bought a Christmas present for each one of her students out of her own pocket. My father got a little monoplane made out of steel, a little toy plane, which I still have. And the lesson I learned is it really doesn't matter where you are and who you are. There's always something you can do to make the world a little bit better place. And over the years, many years later, he still had that plane, and he told me the story, and it's helped form my opinions of what I can do as a single person to try to make the world a little bit better place. I don't know the name of the woman who was his first grade teacher, but I sure remember what she did and how it affected my father and indirectly has affected me. That's it.
One of my favorite memories was getting to the top of the Alps. I hiked up the Alps with some friends, and so I just got at the very top of the peak, and it was the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And it's just like you're on top of the world, and everything was just so clear and beautiful around me. And then I took out my phone and FaceTimed my parents, and I was like, man, I'm on top of the world. It was really cool because I got to share that with them, but also just like be in the moment. So that's it.
One of my favorite memories is I went to the Philippines in December and visited my family on my mom's side, and it was one of the best experiences ever. Different from America, third world country, and it was a humbling experience. Pretty crazy. So stayed there for 30 days, and I learned so much. I would go back. I'm going back every year, actually, so you should too.
Greatest memories. Happiest memories when I had my son. That's October the 31st, 1999. And I waited for him for a long time. I had that one son. That was my first full-term labor experience. I was like 2 weeks overdue or whatever. So by that time, you're just waiting. You need the baby. You got the carrier, the bed, the stuff. You ready for the baby. And so my water broke. I went to the hospital. I tried to have this baby naturally. Really didn't work out like that. I ended up having a cesarean section. And when I saw that face, it was incredible. Every dream I ever had of what he looked like, what he smelled like, who he looked like, what I'd name him, everything. He was perfect. Absolutely the best memory I have in my life.
So when I was 4 years old, I grew up in this place called Buffalo Springs, Virginia. And it was owned by a plantation family called the Burnett's. And it was a happy memory. The recall is almost instantaneous every time. In the backyard, there was this big old tree. And I was 4 years old, and I peeled back a piece of bark. And underneath the bark was this black beetle. And the happy memory is that when I saw the beetle, it was as if the blinders came off. I understood that we didn't make the beetle. We didn't make the tree, we didn't make the grass, and we didn't make the planet. I knew that the clothes were fake, society was fake, The roads were fake. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to explain this to my mom, and that I was going to be alone for a long time.
All right, so my favorite memory is when I met my beautiful wife. You know, I took a knee and she said, yeah.
So my favorite memory was actually right here when I graduated from Roanoke College, right over here, back 2 years ago. Met a lot of friends, a lot of great people. Best memory I've ever had.
It was the BTS concert this past weekend.
Okay, so my favorite memory would have to be the birth of my two children. My son, Brody, he came out after 5 days of Braxton Hicks and false labor, and my daughter, Piper, came out 15 months later. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing in the world that will make you grow up as fast as a child. And I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world.
Yeah, back in the days when I was young, when I was about 15, 16, I had a enthusiastic ambition that I wanted to be a gymnast. So I got into gymnastics, and I was very good at it, with no training at all whatsoever. So I took that around the board with my neighborhood, and everybody's very interested into it. So I had some followers, and that is.
The day my children were born is my favorite memory.
When my little sister was born, because I got to hold her for the first time.
Basically, when I survived brain cancer, I got a second chance at life. So, I mean, yeah, that's my favorite memory out of this whole world. So, yeah.
All right, well, when I was really little, my granddad and I used to just sit together, and he would tell me a lot of ghost stories, and he would tell me things ranging from like old ship stories and like of ghosts and like haunted houses. It's typically everything that you can think of when it comes to like anything having to do with, you know, ghost stories. And so I was so sharp as a kid, I would listen to what he was saying, and he'd be making this stuff up from the bottom of, you know, from anywhere, just at the top of his head, any sort of like thing he could, you know, come up with. And I would, if he like even went for a second and told a part of a story that he had already said before, I'd be like, no, you had already told me that. Tell me something new. And it was just one of the greatest memories I ever had, because I would go up there every single day after school. My grandma would pick me up, take me up there. He would tell me a ghost story. I'd eat an apple. We would hang out. Just always a good time. So, yeah.
This is my friend Jean Garst, and we have been friends since we were small children and grew up in the church together. And now we walk together at Green Hill Park, and we love it. Now, what do you want to say?
And all I can say is amen to all of it. Amen.